From our Kokomlemle studios here in Accra, we're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144, around the world on myjoyonline.com. This is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo. In our headlines, top Chinese Exim Bank officials logged in crucial talks with finance ministry officials, with government desperate to reach a deal that will grant Ghana debt relief, paving way for the IMF bailout. Now, disturbing details on how staff of Land Commission manipulated its software system to steal millions of cedis meant for the Ghana Revenue Authority. We'll tell you more as the management of the system has been handed over to a private firm. The police is meanwhile on a manhunt for 5 others said to have evaded arrest. Now, also in this bulletin, have you even been a deputy minister before? Deputy Majority Leader and Deputy Minority Leader go at each other on the floor in a first exchange of words.
Rise to fame is through basically twisting people's words. I'm a courageous man. That's why I've served this country so honorably. I've even been a deputy minister in this country since I've been here.
The Land Commission says it has handed over management of its software system to a private firm following manipulation by some employees, which resulted in an estimated theft of 100 million cedis. 16 of the 21-member gang fingered for the theft are employees of the commission and have already been slapped with charges of stealing and money laundering at the Accra High Court. My colleague Joseph Akable reports.
16 of the 21-member gang have been arraigned while 5 others are on the run. 10 of the 16 employees of the Lands Commission have been interdicted, while a decision is yet to be taken on the remaining 6. They are alleged to have manipulated a system enabling them to show proof of payment of stamp duties and other charges while keeping the checks for themselves. James Dodson is Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission.
We believe that the courts will deal with this matter and come to the expected conclusions. We, on our part, as our part of the Commission's processes in situations like this, when it gets to the point where we have sufficient information to place a staff on interdiction, we do that. And that is the point where we've gotten to at the moment. Thank you. Not all of them, it's a process. So once we've dealt with a particular case, and it merits interdiction, we will effect that accordingly. And so currently not all of them are on interdiction.
Are you able to put a number out of the 16? How many have been interdicted?
Currently we are at 10. Yes. But the others are also, as I said, even the investigations are still ongoing.
Deputy Executive Secretary Jones Ofoibuedu says the system has been handed over to a private firm to manage it in the interim.
The software, I must say that we developed that software in-house. The Enterprise Land Information System was developed in-house, and we've used it, in our processes, and it's been quite effective. Now, what we've done after we discovered this is to move that platform to a firm to move the management of the platform to a firm to manage it for us. So that would help us to safeguard, some of these more practices. But that is in the interim. In the long term, what we intend to do as part of the land reform project that we're doing at the Lands Commission is to change the entire software. Currently, we're operating on an open source software platform, but we want to move it to a proprietary software platform when we start the land reform project. So that is in the long term. But in the interim, we've moved the platform to a firm who is managing it for us now. So it's not the in-house team that is managing it anymore.
The commission is meanwhile yet to decide whether to interdict the remaining 6 of its employees as internal investigations continue.
Now, there was disappointment in government circles when officials of the Finance Ministry were forced to postpone a critical meeting to China to negotiate a debt relief. But in the last couple of days, government appears to have caught a break. Top officials of the Chinese Exim Bank flew into town over the weekend for showdown talks over Ghana's indebtedness to China. Ghana owes China $1.7 billion, and without a deal from China, government will be unable to access the critically needed $3 billion bailout from the IMF. Ghana's Western creditors have made it clear they will not help if Ghana cannot strike a deal with China. Here is the German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Kroll, speaking at a news conference last week.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the government has taken the right steps, has reached out very actively. I don't see anything that anybody else could have done better. It is really at this point of time, it is really the question on how to convince particular China to come to the table. That is the key question right now. Because all the others, I mean, the Paris Club members have agreed, they are ready, but again, they are not willing to lower the request to Ghana, and with this financing the debts of China. I mean, that must be understandable for everybody. So we are ready to negotiate, but only if all the other creditors are willing, are taking up their responsibility in the same way.
He also laid out a series of conditions Ghana must first meet.
Well, of course, it depends very much on what kind of expenditures you're looking at, and there are certain. I'm convinced this is true for if I look at the budget of the German Foreign Ministry of the German government. I'm convinced there are important parts that can be cut without hurting the economic development, and I'm convinced, without going into details, this also is true for Ghana. There are certainly expenditures that can be lowered substantially and make an important impact. And it has to be part of the package. I mean, I cannot go out to the international community, say I need help, but I'm not willing to cut my own budget expenditures. I have to be careful not to cut in the social expenditures that are destroying lives and families. I have to be very careful not to take measures that might negatively impact the economic growth. But I'm convinced there are many expenditures that could be looked very, very carefully at and could be lowered substantially without harming the economic growth path.
Well, President Akufo-Addo has in the last 24 hours been meeting representatives of the diplomatic community in Ghana, and he did not mince words asking for their help with the Chinese negotiations. He, however, failed to address the key conditions the German ambassador laid out, including a reduction in government expenditure.
We acknowledge the reality of the fact that our economy is in considerable difficulty. The budget drawn for the 2022 fiscal year was thrown out of gear, disrupting our balance of payments and debt sustainability, and further exposing the structural weaknesses of our economy. We have gone to the International Monetary Fund to repair in the short term our public finances and restore our balance of payments, while we continue to work on the medium to long-term structural changes that are at the heart of our goal of constructing a resilient, robust Ghanaian economy and building a Ghana beyond aid. Just as we managed to achieve a staff-level agreement with the fund in record time in December last year, whose terms we are systematically fulfilling, including the difficult but ultimately highly successful process of the domestic debt exchange program. I'm confident that with the cooperation we are receiving from members of the Paris Club and the People's Republic of China, which has sent a delegation from China's Exim Bank to Accra over the weekend to meet with officials of the Ministry of Finance, we shall be able to go to the board of the fund to conclude finally the agreement by the end of March. This will set the stage for the strong recovery of Ghana's economy. Needless to say, we would hope that all Ghana's friends would weigh in with words of support at the fund.
Well, we've been joined via Zoom by an international relations expert, Ishmael Kojo, for an interaction on this. Now, grateful that you could join us. What does this development say about our relationship with China?
Thank you very much. It shows that our relations is still a little bit very strong. And of course, well, last time we were calling on our international friends to help us talk with China. It's one of those complexities, particularly in this debt restructuring across the globe, that the Chinese take a little bit more time to come on the board. But then again, last week I said, the time we were trying to fly to China, most of the time, because of the Chinese New Year, you may not necessarily get them. So now that they are coming down to us to negotiate with us, yes, this is the start of the negotiation, and it will take some time to get all the details done. One of the things about Chinese financing is that it is quite easy for them if it is these zero interest rate loans that they quickly write off. But once it comes to the commercial lending, you must understand that China itself is now learning how to deal with this debt restructuring because they have not been lenders for that long. So it's a new process for them to deal with countries that have taken money from them and in this sort of crisis. So they normally go gradually because by their principle, they will say that you cross the river by touching the stone. So they put the leg out there and touch a stone and decide to cross. So it's also an experiment for them. Okay. One of the things that have worked to our advantage now is the fact that China doesn't want to look like that international altar that is virtually derailing international efforts at getting debt relief for poorer nations. So I think that as they are in now, yes, of course, it's a good news for Ghana, but it will still take some time for us to come to an agreement because much of the loan is commercial lending. So we may look at restructuring maybe rather than debt forgiveness. Now, if you look at what they have done to Colombia, they give them they gave them a 2-year moratorium where they froze interest on their loan. So we may be looking at those kind of dynamics. But of course, also talks about, yes, the kind of demand we put on the table and the things that we are ready to take on ourselves. That's very important during this discussion.
But we know that some countries have lost critical installations to China, due to some of these negotiations. Is that something we should expect in the case of Ghana?
I don't think we should expect that because in those instances, it is because those critical installations were actually part of the bigger deals that they signed, and that allowed them to take over in these cases of default. And indeed, if you look at some of those cases where they have to go for critical installation, already they were part of the processes to collecting revenue and so forth and so on. So in that case, it becomes like a trade-off kind of deal. But this situation appears more complex than that because it's a general problem across the third world. Remember, Zambia is also having its own tough time with the Chinese. Sri Lanka had their own tough time. Therefore, it's not as easy as we say that, well, if we default, the Chinese are coming to take over critical installation. Of course, other creditor nations are already back. Now, if you look at the Paris, we appear to be more friendly with them. So I don't think that we are at a stage where we'll be thinking that critical installation will be taken from Ghana. But then again, it depends on how the negotiations go.
Okay, all right. I'm grateful. Thank you so much for joining us on the Joy News Prime. Now to Nigeria now. Nigeria's President-elect Bola Tinubu has officially received his winner's certificate at a ceremony in the capital, Abuja. Supporters cheered, danced and shouted slogans as a beaming Mr. Tinubu wearing agbada, a flowing robe and a red cap held a certificate aloft. Meanwhile, Nigeria's opposition Labour Party is expected to mount a legal challenge against the presidential election victory of Bola Tinubu of the governing APC. Joining us on Zoom is Musa Aliyu, Executive Director, Media Advocacy and Technology Center. His organization deployed 1,000 observers across the country to access last Saturday's election. Grateful that you could join us here. The EU, ECOWAS and AU have raised concerns about the lack of transparency in the results transmission. Given the report from your observers, do you have a contrary view?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me. Just like the European Union and other observers have noted, the election of last Saturday election in Nigeria is been known to be full of loopholes. And one of the loopholes, just as you have mentioned, is on the issue of the transmission of election results. It was expected that while the election was being casted at the polling unit, the results supposed to be immediately be transmitted to the HIREF, which is the INEC Results Network. But unfortunately, it took more than 72 hours before this was done. And this really puts a lot of aspersion on the credibility of the transmission of the results. And of course, transmission of results is one of the very, very key steps when it comes to the credibility of an election of that magnitude. So we agree with the election observers that the election results is not just supposed to be wasted under no circumstance. No matter the sophistication of the so-called hackers, the INEC is supposed to be on top of its game by ensuring the timely release of results real time, so that it will not give room for any form of suspicion whatsoever.
Now, the INEC is asking aggrieved candidates to use the laid out channels for redress, but do you think they also have a role to play in this?
Yes, definitely. You see, when it comes to the election grievances, we all know that the channel of grievance redress has to pass through the tribunal, from the tribunal to the Court of Appeal. But for the key observer of an election situation in Nigeria, this has always been the routine. And the post-election litigation is one of the undoings of Nigerian democracy. So that is the route which the law has actually placed. But we want to draw the attention of INEC and, of course, the international community to the fact that why must we not always be preemptive on some little issues and challenges of this nature? Must we always approach court of law for any little things that can be solved by our preparedness and state of activity? So these are the areas we want to point to. And of course, we want anybody that has grievances to address, as far as the election result is concerned, to take the part of the law, which is to go to the courts and ensure that they pursue their case to the logical conclusion in the face of judicial.
Now, protests are beginning to erupt across the country. How do we de-escalate the tension presently in the country?
Yes, the protest is not unexpected, because when you go by what the results and the tension that these results have actually generated among the people of Nigeria. So what we want to appeal to is for the law enforcement agency to ensure that they are on top of the game. Yes, people should protest when they are reasonably aggrieved, but that should not be to the deterrence of the economy and the general well-being of the people of the country. If you want to protest, make sure it is very, very peaceful, and you seek for police interventions so that these protests will not be hijacked by the hoodlums. But nevertheless, we still believe that the political actors, the political gladiators, are the one that can actually put water on the dozing fire of the protest here and there by appealing to their supporters to ensure that the rule of law prevails as far as their grievances on the election process in Nigeria is concerned.
The outgoing president, Buhari, believes the outcome of the election shows democracy is growing in Nigeria. Do you agree with him?
Yes, absolutely. We agree that, honestly, democracy is growing. Because when you go to the results that have just been shown, you agree with me that there are a lot of upsets, that even the president-elect himself was defeated right in his own country home of Lagos, which has never happened, meaning that the democracy is growing. And when you look at the top leading three political parties, they shared the states 12-12 among themselves, unlike before that we normally see a political party taking the chunk of the state. So I can tell you that right now, the political conscientization and the sensitization is actually improving among the people of the country, because the so-called underdog Labour Party, for that matter, has been successfully uprooted. The unknown names, governors have been uprooted by political parties, by Okada riders. I don't know whether you know what Okada riders, the machine riders, the vigilante group contested under political party, and they defeated money bags. So this is the kind of happiness we want to be seeing, and are going to be the clear indication that the will and the rule of the people is actually prevailing as far as the democracy is concerned in Nigeria.
Musa Ali, I'm grateful that you found time to join us all the way from Nigeria. So watching Joy News Prime now, still to come here. Have you even been a deputy minister before? Deputy majority leader and deputy minority leader go at each other on the floor in a fierce exchange of words.
His rise to fame is through basically twisting people's words. I'm a courageous man. That's why I've served this country so honorably. I've even been a deputy minister in this country since I've been here.
Welcome back from the break. Now, two crucial vaccines for babies have been unavailable at the Adabraka Polyclinic Vaccination Center for close to a month, leaving many babies without shots. Mothers who had come with their babies to be vaccinated were turned away to come later when the shots were available. My colleague Mamiesi Thompson was there earlier and spoke to some mothers. There's more in the following report.
After a month, nursing mother Florence Kwabla is back to the vaccination center at the Adabraka Polyclinic with her baby girl, Gladys. Florence is here to get Gladys' weight checked and her vaccination shot. She recorded a healthy weight. However, the oral polio vaccine due her is still not available for her baby. The last time she was here, she was told it was finished.
With the polio worries me a lot, because the first day we came, they said there's a shortage. Another, then 1 month time we came, they said there's a shortage. So I asked them, is there any available at any? But they said there's still shortage at some of the polyclinics and hospitals.
Another worried mother is Gifty Odonko. Her 4-month-old baby in Shira has also not received the polio and the rotavirus vaccines. She wants government to quickly restock.
I'm
told there is no polio vaccine, so we'd have to return without the shot. It could expose her to diseases. I hope we can get it at the pharmacy to protect her.
Parliament's Health Committee took a strong stand to deal with shortages across the country. Committee Chair Dr. Efriye Ayu agrees that no child should be exempt from vaccination.
We are concerned because every life matters. And just as many of us here feel our sustainability has more been because of the vaccines we had at childbirth. We cannot deprive any Ghanaian that opportunity to live. And the absence of vaccines in the committee's thinking is inexcusable or unpardonable.
Well, the Ghana Health Service Director, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Bwaji, has assured stores will be replenished in 2 weeks.
Well, still on the vaccines, Parliament's Health Committee is demanding the Ministry of Health to account for more than 71 million Ghana cedis paid by the NHIA for essential vaccines after they appeared before the committee late Tuesday evening. Ranking member Kwabena Minta Kando, speaking to Joy News, said the Health Ministry's deputies could not account for the money when questioned. However, the committee will ensure they cough up the money. Now, there's fierce exchanges of words between Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin and Deputy Minority Leader Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa on the floor of Parliament. The exchanges began when the Deputy Minority Leader took aim at the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who he accused of not frequenting Parliament when invited. The Deputy Majority Leader Afenyo-Markin did not take kindly to these words and fired back.
Impressed with the record of the Minister of Finance attendance, but who allow that letter to stand, as you know.
I know my respected colleague opposite me expects that people treat him fairly in terms of choice of words. And I have taken note of his concerns about some approach in dealing with issues of disagreement. But I would beg him to withdraw the aspect of his statement. Quote, "This House is not impressed." If you are talking about your own impression about the minister, say so for the record. But don't let Hansard capture the phrase, "This House is not impressed." This House is a House of 275 members. And I do not know of anything untoward that has been done by the Finance Minister to warrant this statement from you on behalf of the entire House. The Minister, as courtesy demands, has written to Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker has read it out aloud and in extenso to us as a House. So I do not think the least you can do is to say that the House has not been impressed with his conduct. What did he do? Mr. Speaker, I beg that that aspect of his statement be withdrawn or is expunged.
Things got pretty heated afterwards between the two leaders.
Respected Deputy Majority Leader is always not paying attention. His rise to fame is through basically twisting people's words. Mr. Speaker, I was very clear about what I said. I was talking about attendance. We are talking about the Minister of Finance's presence today. We have a letter that says that he's engaged, a very important engagement. I accept that. But I said, this House, and of course, I was speaking in terms of this side of the House, is not impressed with his attendance. What is wrong with that? So, Mr. Speaker, I don't withdraw that statement because that is what I believe in. If he has a problem with that, he can just modify that statement. But that is what we believe, that his attendance in this House is not impressive.
Mr. Speaker, he who comes to equity must first do equity and must come with clean hands. You see, the Deputy Minority Leader is a very sensitive person who is sensitive to words. Now you're saying that a statement that you boldly made, that this House is now being qualified or modified to mean your side of the House. If that is what you meant, why didn't you say so? And you are not courageous and honorable enough to accept your mistake. Then you now say that somebody's rise to fame is through twisting people's statement. I didn't twist your statement. And I would not use that to rise to any fame. I don't need it. I would want to earn it through hard work and merit.
Now, Love News investigations have reviewed recent footage of the river Ankobra. Regaining its ecological integrity is a mirage as Shamfan operators mine directly on the riverbed at various sections close to Aksim and Pristia Heman in the western region. It was found that recent green pictures taken by government officials at the Ankobra estuary is a momentary phenomenon of the sea pushing back the river at a high tide. The major water source has turned thick and murky at the Pristia Heman source point and polluted along the Aksim trail to the estuary. But how did a momentary high tide from the sea become the cover story of a highly polluted river? The Ghana Environmental Advocacy Group, an NGO, and the multimedia group sent Erastus Asaridonko on a fact-finding mission on the Ankobra River and now reports.
of region. The river Ankobra flows about 190 kilometers south to the Gulf of Guinea. About 2 weeks ago, pictures of a green-looking river Ankobra taken at the Sangoma estuary in Axim took over social media. The taglines indicated government's illegal mining fight was gaining ground with the clearing of the river. We set out on a fact-finding mission on the flow path of the Ankobra. After hours on the road, we hit the coastal town of Axim. We proceeded to Sangoma or Ankobra town, where the river meets the sea. This is where pictures of the green Ankobra were taken. Instead of a green-looking river, we saw a dirty-looking Ankobra polluting the green sea. Residents here share how they feel about assertions that the Ankobra has regained its former glory.
Why is it that they are saying something which is untruthful to the nation, to the public? Because they should have told the public the truth that the river is totally bad, but it is because of the high tide of the sea that is coming through the river water. So that one looks a little bit clear, and they took that picture. So I feel very bad.
Green out to March. April, May. Next to for yellow one abba. Next year from January, February, March, still so yellow no. I
am sitting in the middle of two great water bodies. To my left is the sea, and to my right is the river Ankobra. Behind me is the estuary. This is where the two meet. Now there is this confusion over whether the Ankobra is clearing and it is green, and we've seen some green videos of the Ankobra right from this point. Those pictures were taken. Now let me explain to you. At high tide, the sea here, which is green, washes over. All this place gets flowing with seawater, and it washes over the Ankobra to that end. The sea is green. The river Ankobra is yellowish now. It covers it. The whole place is green. Beautiful, isn't it? That is what we expect the river Ankobra to look like. Unfortunately, it doesn't look that way. This is the real color of the Ankobra as we speak. Polluted right from the source. It ends this controversy. But if anybody is serious about this, this is a serious pollution matter. Because as you look at the estuary, even close to the sea, you can see the color of the sea from this point right up there, as far as the drone can see, turning yellow in the color of the Ankobra. Until we see a high tide, which they say is 2 hours away, which will wash the sea green water over the Ankobra, the situation is a highly polluted Ankobra, which is now polluting the sea. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Ankobra, Western Region.
Now, do you think God isn't paying attention to you? Why not pray on the Achia Mountains, where God can be heard most clearly? You may have been praying to God to do something new in your life, but it seems there's a lot of interference between you and God. However, there's a spot in Ghana where some Christians assert that God's hearing is the clearest. On the Ghana Month series, Kojo Yankson leads you on a trip through the picturesque Achia Mountains in the Ashanti region, where you can trust that your prayers will be heard.
Nestled in the Mampong Ranges near Nsuta, the Achia Mountains are a magnet for prayerful Christians and church groups looking for a quiet spot for spiritual reflection and communion with God. The almost 2-hour drive from Kumasi towards Nsuta takes us through a rather scenic route of majestic mountains and beautiful overhanging shrubbery. It bears no resemblance to any other place in Ghana. Really quite breathtaking. We have a 70% Christian population. And this place, Achia Mountains, is fabled for its spiritual significance. People travel, churches travel in buses just to climb up to the top of this mountain to pray. They believe that they will get healing if their prayer goes to God from this mountain. That's a powerful symbol, whether you believe in it or not. And it's worth checking out. It's worth a trip. You, the family, your friends, it's worth it to do the hike up this beautiful trail to the top of the mountain to see where it appears God's hearing is the clearest. Let's go. Now, Bisa has been going up and down the Achia Mountain for how many years?
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
Wow. These guys make a living from carrying food, water, equipment, baggage, and sometimes people up and down the mountain. How long does it take you to get to the top?
Okay, if I'm going there with nothing there, I can use maybe 10 minutes to go. 10 minutes. But when I'm going there with load, maybe 35 minutes to 45 minutes. Then maybe some heavy load, take me maybe 15 minutes.
So somebody like me, how long will it take me? Since I've never done it before.
How I see it, maybe can use maybe 1 hour.
What?
1 hour.
Wow, we haven't even started and I'm already tired. So anyway, let's do it. And
Okay.
tell me, this place, who discovered it?
Okay, Reverend Osesibe.
Reverend
Osesibe.
Who's that?
One of the Methodist priests.
And what's the story? How did he find this place?
Okay, what I've heard is one day he was one of the pastors at Efigasi. Efigasi, that is his name. So he was going to Mampong to do a program. Okay, on the way going, they get fought at the junction there. His car. Okay. Where you have to come this time, Abayusia. Yeah. So that time is Achia. Okay. Omunya photo until Ojina time Ojina on eyes. I wanna Onya vision be said on share so. Now, the honor on the BB or honor. By interesting story, we say, or more on call that, but one I need Dikai.
So he was leading them?
He was leading them.
Even though he had never been
there before.
Wow.
But he was leading them to where they were going. It was not calling him for a Kojo come Terre Honoma. So one day the home yet, what Taya and Casa would do a home and a casa a hat. At once, no Muduana and a Casachena, a whole mina turning to move color.
You hear all sorts of stories about this place, people trying and failing to make it to the summit. But I must say, it doesn't look so hard. If even little Bisa can do it, carrying luggage, then for big men like us, it'll be a walk in the park. Famous last words.
Oh, you have started it, If you are going to use Travis, hey, easy. I think 1 hour.
I don't think it's possible to describe the marrow-deep fatigue I was feeling at this point. It felt as if every cell in my body had been drained of its vitality. I had emptied my tank, my reserves, and was running on fumes. Seriously, I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel my arms. I couldn't feel my eyes, my waist, my teeth. I was struggling to find physical proof that I still existed. At a point, I genuinely felt I was about to die. And we weren't even halfway there. Hey! I can tell you, without a doubt, since I was born, this is the most tired my body has ever been. You would think it's a simple undertaking, but I swear to you, it's an experience you and your body will never forget, no matter how fit you are. We have been told stories of soldiers who stopped halfway and cried. I didn't cry, but I stopped about 10 times on my way up here. But you know what? Getting to this point, and by the way, we're not even at the end of the trail yet, but getting to this point comes with a sense of such achievement. If I've done Achia, you know, so it's like from now on, if anyone throws you a challenge and you say, oh, wait, if I've done Achia, then Chia. Right here. Let all the saints say amen. So what's the payoff at the end of that grueling climb to the top of Achia Mountain? What do you get when you get here? Well, for the Christians who make this a pilgrimage, let me tell you, they feel closer to God. Look at this. This is the actual prayer camp, Camp 3, the Methodist prayer. And let me tell you, we have learned since we got here that on 31st of December, this entire expanse was full. And you can believe it because they've got these speakers at all the vantage points so that wherever you're standing to pray, you will be heard. Not just by your fellow man, but by God himself. You can imagine that if you live in a city anywhere, it can get very loud. You can feel like there is a lot of interference between your voice and God's ears. But up here, there's nothing between you and your Maker. And the Christians who come here firmly believe that this is the clearest connection they can have with the God who made them. But it's beautiful out here, so you know it's not only for those who are coming to pray, but for those who want to see the beauty of this nation, the beauty of Mampong, the beauty of the Asante region. The view from here, not bad at all. I recommend you take your family one weekend, bring them over, and show them what God made.
Gospel musician Celestine Donk.
Is that how you introduced me?
No, forgive me. I almost did it for you.
And I didn't tell you I was going to do that first. But well...
I have an issue with you, so probably that hit into my head.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here for Showbiz. Gospel musician Celestine Donko, obviously. She's been talking about how she writes music, or how she got to write her own music. And she spoke to Alexis Bill on Joy FM.
I used to struggle to write songs. I used to struggle. It was a prayer topic, the first on my list. I used to pray about it. I remember I used to wait on the Lord for it. At the time that I released after Supernatural, and at the time I was featuring, doing featured works for other artists, and it comes out and it's a hit, and I'm not able to come out with that song that to give me that, that attention that my ministry deserves. So it was a need, at the time. But the Lord visited me in a special way. Wow. I had a dream.
You did?
Yes, I had a dream, and I saw myself on a very big field of flowers. And I was with someone. I believe it was God. I couldn't see him, but I could hear his voice. And he was telling me to look at the flowers, study them. And I started looking, and they were all making music.
Wow.
Yes, they were all making sounds. And I that sound I heard, I haven't heard anything like that on earth. So I enjoyed it. I admired every moment in that dream. And then, to cut a long dream short, the angel said to me, go and sing. After that encounter, when I woke up, my spirit just overflows with songs.
Wow.
It just overflows. I wake up with new songs. I sleep with new songs.
Celestine Dunker right there. Let's move away from Celestine. Don't forget that she has a show coming up this weekend.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Celestial Praise.
Yeah, so you should join Celestine Dunker. Let's talk about Ghana Music Awards Europe.
USA. Oh, Europe.
Well, there's Europe, there's USA, there's UK, there's Ghana, obviously. I'm sure they'll have Ghana Music Awards still go very soon. But, well, Ghana Music Awards Europe, there was a launch for this particular event. Our cameras were there. We spoke to some organizers.
To be able to get our country, our music actually, and our culture across the borders. I mean, for some time now, you can see that music in Africa is moving to various destinations, and you can see what Ghana is doing, Nigeria is doing, and the rest of Africa is doing, South Africa. Yes, what we want to do is to be able to get our music across beyond the borders of Africa, into Europe, into America. Others are moving it into America, others are moving it into the UK. We are doing our best to move it into Europe as well.
Okay, so you're talking about an award scheme to project Ghanaian music out there. Why do you think it should take an award scheme to do this?
It's important because, you see, without a scheme, one of the things that the scheme will do is to be able to get the artists to be bold and to be confident in themselves. And so when the scheme like this comes, it gets the people in Europe wanting to know about these artists. So for instance, somebody maybe in Europe have not heard about Chaka before. For the first time, he goes through the nominations and he wants to go and find out who this Chaka is and what type of music that the person sings. So by googling to see the Chaka and going on YouTube to see his music, the person falls in love. And that is how come the music can grow.
Jay Foley is here, and he is a vice chairman for the Ghana Music Awards Europe board. Let me find out something from him. So, what do you make of the award scheme?
You know, first off, personally, even off the role being given to me, I'm excited about it because I was really rooting for us to consolidate all these award schemes outside the country and just put them into one big pot. At the end of the day, if we put all our hands in there, we can be able to amplify it and push it better. So for a Ghana Music Awards Europe innovation or idea already, I support it.
Jay Foley right there. We're looking forward to this particular event, which is set to happen somewhere in Europe. It's Ghana month.
You'll be there, right?
Hopefully, I will be there.
I mean, the queen of the industry. They cannot do without you.
Yeah, I think so. Listen to Brace. But let's celebrate, obviously, Ghana month. It's March, and we're celebrating Ghana month as part of the celebration, Brace. To our lovely viewers, we're showing you how to prepare Nkati cake. Do you know what Nkati cake is?
Yeah. It's one of the delicacies we enjoy when we were young. And even today, if you give it to me, I'll kill it within some few seconds.
All right, let's show everybody how to go about it.
Okay. And that's how we wrap up today's bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. Well, once it's Ghana month, my name is Papa Shile.
My name is Ya Hienobia Treneboa.
All right. Prime Business is up next. But just before, remember to brush your teeth before you go to bed this evening, and brush tomorrow morning when you wake up. Brush your teeth with either Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, Pepsodent Charcoal, Pepsodent Herbal, or Pepsodent Triple Protection. Because with Pepsodent, every smile matters. Prime Business is up next with my AC Thompson.
AC.